Is it time for the Ridsdale Out banners to now hang at Deepdale? That's our discussion point on episode 17 of Where North End Walk. Welcome back. We're also talking about some criticisms for Heckingbottom and are they justified? Plus, we're talking about Christmas fixtures for Preston, who's out of contract for North End, and it's the FA Cup third round draw this weekend. So, who do our team want in the hat? Welcome back to Ash, Etienne, and Harvey, our regulars, but also we have a special guest this week. We have Keith Harrison, who, of course, is the author of the famous North End Souls books. Thank you very much for joining us, Keith. Are you well?
I'm good, thanks. I'm better than I was on Saturday afternoon. Let's put it that.
We're getting into that derby result. Now, of course, we're recording this before any midweek action, the Stoke game in particular, so we can't talk about how that has gone. They've got a good light show, by the way. Hopefully, if you're heading to Stoke, you'll get to see a good light show for once. But we'll talk about the derby game first of all. Etienne, let's start with you this week, if that's okay. One tweet said it was two mediocre teams playing the most mediocre game of any mediocre season. Is that about right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And you could probably take it that you could probably take mediocre away and just say terrible for both teams because it is honest. That was honestly one of the worst matches I've ever watched in my life. You were sat there. Greenwood scored quite possible. I don't know how the keeper's not managed to save that. He just scored a header. They've gone the other end, and it's another Woodman mistake and another man lost in the box. And then nothing happened for 70 minutes. So, yeah, it was just a horrible match to be at. I was soaked from the walk up, soaked on the walk back. Just a waste of 3 hours for Derby and especially Preston.
Was it the conditions, Harvey, or were just the two teams that bad?
Yeah, it is just two teams that bad. Like you can't even sugarcoat it. It was just like a dire performance from both sets, to be honest.
Ash, your lad fell poorly before the game, so you got to turn around and go home. Probably you're thanking him for that, are you? I hope he's all right now, by the way.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine, thanks. But yeah, bored and dry is better than bored and wet. So I'll take it.
All right, so we're going to focus on our theme then, which is Ridsdale Out. We don't want any cease and desist letters coming our way, so we are going to balance this out with this conversation. But Andy says, Keith, I'm going to get your view on what Andy says here. Sleepwalking to relegation under Ridsdale. He simply has to go. He's a dinosaur. He's a relic. We need new blood with new ideas are badly needed. The ownership need to act now. Adam compliments that by saying 6 out of 11 that started against Derby were signed under a manager who left over 3 years ago. Ridsdale or not, someone isn't doing a good enough job. Do you agree, Keith, with those points?
Well, yeah, I do really, and I don't think we're sleepwalking to relegation. I think anybody who's aware can see this coming from, the pre-season that we had, the transfer business that we did in the summer. And the whole setup of the club really is unlike any other club you'll find in the Championship in terms of the recruitment setup, the executive setup, right down to the catering and how the commercial arms are set up, like the club shop. That I'm told that we've signed a long-term contract for the club shop and another long-term contract for the catering. But the service, particularly with the catering, doesn't seem to be good. Now, this might seem as if, what are we talking about the pies for, Keith, when the team is that bad? That's important. But it's endemic. It's symbolic, really, of the demise of the club. And we just feel that, I think that we feel like a club that is circling the plug hole. And it's interesting on Saturday with the Derby fans giving us some stick. And again, it happens all the time at Deepdale, particularly, whereby away fans always give us, it's football in a library, your support is terrible, blah, blah, blah. And it's because we're so ground down, I think, because the expectation is so low and the mood of the support, it's really, really poor. And I go back to, the 1970s and the 80s. I'm giving my age away now, boys there. But and I've seen some grim seasons. And trust me, this season has got relegation stamped all over it. It really has. But your wider point about Peter Ridsdale, I mean, the tweet there saying he's a dinosaur, he's a relic from a bygone age, it's all absolutely true. I mean, the way we operate is just, I say, unlike any other club in the Championship would operate. And you look at the academy, you look at the recruitment process. Yeah, it all seems to fall on his door, and he's the only person who seems to be doing anything. And yet he never held responsible for it. So we've made some signings in the summer without even having a manager. We spent 1.7 million allegedly on Jeppe Ockels, a winger, and we signed him at a time when we didn't even have a manager. Now 1.7 million for North End is big money, particularly when you haven't got a manager in place and you're talking about a manager coming in who might want to use those funds to strengthen the defence, which I think I'm not being controversial by saying that most people thought that the area that most needed strengthening was the defence. And we've gone and signed a 1.7 million pound winger who, by the way, has started one game, lads, 2 games. I can't remember what it is, but he's barely getting a kick. And I feel sorry for him, really, because, you know, he's been thrust into a new country with a big price tag, and he's just not getting a kick. And again, there's no strategy into that. There's no plan for how we might get out. So yeah, there are big problems, and I think all this can be evidenced in terms of the squad that we've got now. Paul Heckingbottom today in his press conference was saying that, you know, come January, we're going to need to sell. We might need to sell to buy. Who's going to buy? The squad is basically worthless, and players that have been worth money in the past few years, free. Emil Rees being a key example. You know, we turned down a £7 million bid from Middlesbrough a few years back, and I guarantee you that at the end of the season, he's not signing the contract. He's going to walk for free. Even if we try to sell him in January, we're getting pittance. So we're not player trading. We're not generating money. We were the lowest club in terms of revenue in 2023, in the 2022 in the Championship, in a league which at the time included the likes of Blackpool, Wigan and Rotherham. So let that sink in. The revenue at North End was lower than Blackpool, Wigan and Rotherham. That cannot be right for a club which is, no disrespect to those clubs, well, messing with Blackpool. But we're much bigger than those. So what is going on behind the scenes? We have owners who just are not interested. We don't hear from the chairman, Craig Hemmings. When we do hear from him, it feels like they're not really his words. It feels like it's been written by somebody else who wants him to say these. And the whole mood and atmosphere around the club is really just poor at the moment. But I feel sorry for Heckingbottom and I'll let somebody else get a word in a second. But I feel really sorry for Paul Heckingbottom because, you know, if Ryan Lowe had been fired at the end of the season, which apparently, you know, was potentially on the cards, Paul Heckingbottom might have been able to come in there and have a pre-season and bring in his own players. Instead, obviously Ryan Lowe's gone after one game. Hecky has got no time to really sort it out, and he's really making the best of a very bad job at the moment. So yeah, let's give him to January and let's see what we can get in. But I don't think criticism of Paul Heckingbottom is fair at the moment.
Thanks for cheering us all up, Keith. That is a brilliant dichotomy of what's going on at the club. Ash, just share some more thoughts from fans. John says the game was an embarrassment. We've gone through that. 2 very poor sides. He says if we don't strengthen in January, we could go down. I don't like picking on players, but Whiteman is not a captain. We're not discussing that again. We've done that one to death, of course, as well. He shouldn't be in the team. The high entire backbone is awful. I don't want to keep coming back to it, Ash, but of all the 24 clubs in this league, I think January is the most important for Preston, isn't it? But where's the money going to come in? Usually your owners put in some money when you are in the doldrums. Are they going to have to do it again?
Yeah, well, the way it seems to be is they usually put just enough in to keep us afloat and keep us up, which is what I think might be the case again. It was concerning watching the interview today with Heckingbottom and him saying that we may have to sell first. As other people have said it, I don't think there's really anyone that's worth any money in the squad at the minute, or not enough to go and benefit the squad the way it needs to be benefited. Whiteman, I know you said don't mention him, but he'd be the first one on the transfer list for me the way things are going at the minute. He isn't what we once thought he was. Everything was wrong with the weekend, everything, and we really need to do a lot of business. If you ask me, I think there was a survey in the LEP, and people were saying 2 or 3 signings were needed, but I'd say 5, 6 as a minimum. The whole back line, bar maybe Lindsay and Story, you could keep as a rotation. Whole back line needs replacing for my liking.
In response to that previous tweet, Etienne Pavel says, John, there is no we will go down. We are pathetic. I actually thought Heckingbottom was the answer. I'm now having second thoughts.
No.
His team selection is pathetic, and Whiteman should not be anywhere near the team. There was a couple more like this. I'm not putting them all on the screen because I don't want to kind of over-egg it. But some people are saying, as much as they fully back him, his team selections aren't good enough. And he's got his favourites and he's dropping them. Are people justified in that criticism?
It really depends on how you're viewing it. I think a lot of people immediately look at the team sheet, see the names like Whiteman in there, and immediately go, right, he's got his favourites. That's just how it is. But I think the reality of it is, you can't use the argument that he's inherited a weak squad and then say the squad selections are poor, because those two arguments collide. Obviously, we should drop Whiteman and maybe give Thedarson a chance, but I've not really been impressed by Thedarson at all. And the defence is the defence, most of them are shocking. And especially without Lindsay in the squad at the moment, it's as worse as it can get. But at the same time, I don't want to judge Heckingbottom for anything until he's really had a chance to impose himself on the squad. The only argument I would have for that is maybe he needs to explore a bit more tactically. We've got 2 or 3 wingers sat on that bench every week. Why aren't we using the wingers to the best of our ability? Especially as Keith said, Ockles was 1.7 million. Josh Bowler was a very good championship winger for Blackpool, although none of us want to admit it. I'd love to see him reignite that with us, and they're just not getting the chance. And it was frustrating seeing that. But at the same time, Heckingbottom's inherited what he's inherited, and he's doing his best with it. It's not going well. But I just don't see that argument.
Okay. One final one on this one, and this was the most damning one of all, Harvey. I'll leave you to dissect this one. W23PNE says, when Lowe was here, we were apparently crap because Lowe was crap. Now he's gone. We are still crap. It's the players or Ridsdale at fault. This manager is a long way off being the answer. His selections are baffling and his substitutions are even more so. He is not an upgrade. Thinking, I can see your reaction. You're not having it, are you?
I just think it's absurd. I think to compare Ryan Law, who's done little to nothing in his career, to a manager who's literally got promotions with a top championship side is absurd for a start. And what keeps annoying me is that this fan base seems to have this recurring pattern of mentioning Lowe in every argument every week, and it honestly, it boggles my mind because 1, he's not the manager anymore. 2, everyone knows how poor he is, and 3, I don't understand the idea of comparing him to Lowe. Some people need to move on, and that's the be all and end all of that one. In terms of Hecky, I think again it is, you can't really judge him off a team that isn't his. However, I think I am one of the people on the argument, which I wouldn't say they were pathetic. However, I do think his squad selection can be a bit confusing at times. I don't agree with every selection, but I don't know if you'll find a fan he will. But I just think there are many options, like Etienne said, that Hecky maybe isn't exploring. And maybe to get a result, some things like that do need to change. For example, the weekend, I think Hecky starting 3 defensive midfielders was a bit of a rogue choice. I don't really see how, given the form Preston had been in, come back off an international break, you've had time with some of the players to then set up in what my opinion seem very defensive. So again, it's situations like that which do confuse me a bit, but I think you can't point the finger at Hecky and definitely not compare him to Law when it's 2 completely different managers, in 2 completely different systems.
Okay.
I think what happened was the Portsmouth defeat was so bad. I don't know if the lads went to Portsmouth. The Portsmouth performance was so bad. I think he possibly now looked at the squad and thought, yes, I do want to play. He's coming at first and he's tried to play more attacking football. But pretty clearly that the players are not capable of doing that. And Ryan Lowe, and I'm sorry to mention him again, Harvey, I'm delighted to see him go. But he did what Alex Neil had ended up doing in the end as well, was just parking the bus, really, and saying, let's see what we can start off with a 0-0 and let's see what we can get. And, you know, it was some of the worst football you've ever seen under Ryan Lowe, but it did scrape us to, 10th place. I'm not saying that's progress because the points total was lower than the year before, but we'd like to talk about that. But I think on Saturday, what was worrying it was that we weren't playing Leeds, we weren't playing Sheffield United or Sunderland, we were playing Derby. And you looked at that Derby, and that was a League One team, really. You got James Collins up front. You went through there, a lot of League One standard players. They've had a good start, but I suspect they will be right down at the bottom at the end of the season. Now, that's the game that North End should be looking to win. That's the type of game you should be saying to Ockles, right, this is your chance, this is your opportunity, these are no great shit. Get out there and show us what you can do. But we didn't. He seemed to go safety first. I mean, I don't know what the lads think, but, you know, walking up to the ground on Saturday, it's pouring down. You see that lineup at 2 o'clock, and he plated everybody, didn't it? I don't know what you thought. I mean, you just think, God, this is going to be the one of the dullest games ever. We're playing for a draw against a terrible Derby County side. And I think he was doing that reaction to the Portsmouth game because Portsmouth was so bad. But the problem is, he was talking earlier in the week about, we need to get 3 points, and I'd always take 1 win and 2 defeats over 3 draws. Our next 2 games, well, after a side Stoke, but against West Brom coming up, then we've got Leeds coming up in a couple of weeks' time. These are the tough games. Derby are one of the teams that we've got to be trying to beat at home, Deepdale. We shouldn't basically a back 8, which is what we played. We played 5 at the back with 3 holding midfielders in front. I mean, I know Freddie Woodman's not having his best season, but how much protection does one lad need?
It's those fixtures which we're going to come on and have a look at now because it is Christmas around the corner. Let's bring in the list. As I say, we are recording this before the Stoke game. First of all, Ash, do you have any sympathy for managers and players when they moan about 9 games in 30 days? Or you say, get on with it, you're paid well enough?
Yeah, I go to work every day as well, and I get paid a lot less than them, so they can deal with it. They get paid quite well, especially when you consider how shocking the performances have been. They don't have a right to complain, knowing what they earn. So, but it does look like a tough run of games, so you can understand why they would worry about it. But if, as a professional footballer, you don't want to play games, then why are you in the profession you're in?
Absolutely. And it does look quite tough. I mean, the home games itself, Etienne, West Brom, who not in the best of form themselves at the moment, so that is winnable. Leeds, who you beat last year at this time of the season, if you remember rightly, with that last minute winner. Sheffield Wednesday and Hull. So, apart from Leeds, the home games are winnable, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's also Preston North End, and we don't like to win. We don't like to win against these small sides. Not small sides, sorry. Lesser standard sides. I didn't mean to call offence to any other fans watching this. West Brom, they're so confusing to me because they seem to be unbeatable, but I don't actually know where they are in the table. I think they're up there, but I know they're not having their best season. Although Darryl Dike has become. Not Darryl Dike, what's his name? Josh Madger has become one of the best strikers in the Championship this season. I think that'll probably be a loss. And then I'm looking at Hull and Sheffield Wednesday and going, we should be beating them, especially the way Hull are going at the moment. And Sheffield Wednesday haven't been their best at all. And there's just a lingering thought in the back of my mind that's going, we're probably going to lose both of them as well.
Okay, I love this optimism. QPR haven't won at home all season yet, so that's a possible away win, Harvey. Cardiff are poor, and Sheffield Wednesday are not pulling a route. So your away games are all pretty decent, I think. So there is potential here for Preston to pull away from this if you can just get this little mini run of wins or pick up draws away from home going, isn't there? This is not a bad fixture list away from home.
With the best will in the world, we haven't won away from home since March. We've got the worst away record in the country. So when you've not won, and against Plymouth the other week, we're 3-0 up with half an hour to go, and we still, look at we have 7. We've won 3, I think, in 16 this season. I'm looking at them fixtures, and I'm thinking, where are we getting from there? Where are we? And people talk, January, we're going to get to January. I might be pessimistic, but you look at those fixtures, you look at the squads, and even like Hull, you look at there and you think they've got a better squad than us. West Brom have got a better squad than us. You look at our squad, so unbalanced. We're £6 million worth almost of talent on the bench on Saturday. 6 million for Preston North End. That includes our record signing, one of our top 3 record signings in Ockles, and Mads Frokjær, who bizarrely isn't getting a kick, and he is the most talented player that we've got. So you look at those fixtures and you think, where in North End going to start getting points from? Particularly if you look at the last 3 games: Bristol City at home, appalling performance; Portsmouth away, appalling performance; and Saturday, very poor performance against a very poor team. I just, there's a danger that January might be too late in terms of getting signings in. And I'm sorry, lads, but the danger is as well, if North End are cast adrift or rooted in the bottom 2 or 3 in January, who's going to want to come and join? We might get a few loans, but we're not going to get any decent permanent signings in, which is what we need. Point A. Point B, who is going to be in charge of this recruitment, which brings us back to Peter Ridsdale again, because the players that are sitting on the bench that we've paid big money for, they're not getting a kick. So, the LEP survey in the week said that 3/4 of fans thought we'd had an poor transfer window. People are going to be buying these players in January. And if you're the owner in the Isle of Man, and Peter Ridsdale comes knocking on your door and says, can I have a few more million because I wasted the last lot? They're going to say, what did you do with the last lot of the millions that we gave you like 3 or 4 months ago in the summer? Well, it's sitting on the bench and it's not getting a kick. They're not going to give him it. So, he's in charge of that. I just don't have any great hope that suddenly 5 or 6 great players are going to come charging over the hill in January and get us out of this mess. I think it's going to be a real grind to get through to January, try and stay in touch, get 1 or 2 loans, and just try and keep our heads above water. But, a relegation battle, you look at Plymouth and how many last Plymouth sort of come up with in the few weeks, including the North End. They've got spirit. We went down to Portsmouth the other week. The atmosphere in the ground was like phenomenal. They've got 20,000 on, willing them into every tackle and to get every ball. You look at North End and it's dead because everybody is ground down. The players don't look up for a fight. We're going into a relegation battle with these lads, and you've talked about it in the past with Ben Whiteman as your leader. Come on, we need to see a bit of that. We need to like a complete makeover for these lads to realise that it's time to stand up and be counted.
Okay, very passionate there, Keith. Tony, you were on the sidelines. I dared show you the next one because we're talking about players out of contract for the January transfer window. I'll flash it up on the screen and quickly take it down again, because out of all the 24 clubs, Preston have got a real problem coming around the corner. There is a huge amount of players which, for some reason, contracts are now heading into their last month. Story, Woodman, Reese, Lindsay, Holmes, Ledson, Hughes, Best, Brady, Bauer, Evans, and Keane Taylor. Now, not all first team players, of course, and of course we've got the 3 loans to sort out as well. So there's a heck of a lot of work to do in the boardroom. I'll keep this short and sweet because we want to definitely get to bed. But Ash, if I was giving you one contract here to sort out, who's the one that you're definitely ringing on the phone and going, sign this now?
Does that include if we buy one of the loan players, or are we going off the actual Preston players? If it's the Preston players, weirdly, although he's getting 0 minutes, it'd be Keane Best, because there is potential for him to have a future, and the rest I've pretty much given up on.
Etienne?
I want to do the same thing as Ash, but for now, Liam Lindsay, I'll still sing his praises a lot. I do think he's got 1 or 2 more seasons in the heart defence, maybe a season, maybe 6 months, whatever. But I'm still impressed with him sometimes. He's just won Championship Player of the Season for the Northwest. How Schmoddix didn't win that, God knows, but Liam Lindsay's won it, so there we go. Blackburn fans, put that one in your trophy cabinet. Yeah, but I'd be asking Lindsay to sign that deal. If we're allowed loan players, activate that buyout clause for Greenwood right now.
Brilliant. Harvey?
Yeah, Lindsay. Has to be.
Reese can pack his bags then?
Yeah, it's just like I think you look at the competition and it's just like you've got us mates now who hopefully can get himself back into form. You've got Stewart, who I think still needs a run of games, so that's that cover for him. I think him and I know he's not out of contract, but I think him and Keane could go now, and I don't think it'd bother me. The rest of them are just. I don't think the rest of them are worth the money, to be honest.
Okay, Keith, which one would you prioritise?
I mean, given a choice, it's a sad indictment. You look at the list, and there's not one of them really. If they all left, there wasn't. You wouldn't shed any tears for any of them. Probably what the club needs is to rip it out and start it all over again. In all honesty, again, the only caveat to that is the recruitment department and Peter Ridsdale spending the money scares the life out of him, given his. So out of that list, I would say Jordan Storey. I think Storey is steady. He's not spectacular, but I think he's coming into his prime years. We've sort of nurtured him over the years as a young centre half coming up, and I think he's getting better. He's getting more physical. He's getting better on the ball. I think Jordan Storey is somebody who could stick around for a few years and just get better and better, and end up people will be talking as a bit of a North End legend if he stays for the next 3 or 4 years. He doesn't do anything wrong, Jordan Storey. I think he's a good footballer and a good defender.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for that. To finish off with this week, of course, it's FA Cup second round action, which means the third round draw will be made before we meet again. So we're asking Preston fans to come up with their dream third round tie. Harvey, kick us off with this one. What would you like?
I've been boggling three in my mind since you asked the Blackburn fans. I think Blackpool, home or away, is obviously a given, but I think I will go with United away, just because I ended up watching a Carabao Cup game at Old Trafford last year with my mate because he's a United fan, and it was against Newcastle, and that away end was just something I've never seen in my life. So I think to take a fair few thousand to Old Trafford would be really nice.
Okay, you might actually beat them.
Yeah, that well.
Okay. Keith?
Well, I mean, Blackpool at home is the dream. And are they still in it? I don't pay much attention to them. Are they still in the FA Cup?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I mean, Blackpool at home then. Because it's one thing struggling to look at Championship, but those lads are looking at League Two. So, yeah, they've got it a lot worse at the moment, which is one silver lining.
Okay. Etienne?
I could go with Blackpool, but I'll shift to Manchester City away. I just would really like to go in that away end as well. Same with United. Same with Anfield. Even good. I heard you saying this to the Blackburn fans. Goodison Park.
Don't
that away end as well.
You've already said it, Etienne. Now it's too late. You can't come back with that. Ash,
a City away.
City away.
Yeah, mine would be the biggest club in Merseyside, Tranmere. So I would like to go there.
Where's the mute button?
Yeah, it's got to be Blackpool at home. Away's great, but it's so hard to get tickets because they've got such a tiny little tin pot stadium. They only give us 1,000 tickets. So definitely them at home, I think, would be nice.
Okay, let's manifest it now then, shall we? Preston Blackpool third round. We want it. Okay, you lot. Thank you very much. Thank you, Keith, for being our guest this evening, and Yeah, you've absolutely definitely put the world to rights on all things Preston. So fascinating. Listen, thank you so much for that. We'll see you three, of course, next week. Enjoy the football this week. Enjoy your trip. Anyone going to Stoke on a cold Tuesday, November night?
Absolutely
No, Keith,
not.
you're mad, but enjoy. Wrap up warm. We'll see you the other side of it. Thank you very much for watching.